Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. It's afternoon for me right now. So today I want to talk about feature leads. Every year we do student activity conferences and I do a big presentation on feature writing, and that video actually is already posted, but it's a long video and it's a lot of information, especially if you are new to writing the feature stories and if you're new to participating in the UIL Feature Writing Contest. So today I want to talk about just one piece of that in the feature leads because it's so important that you master writing feature leads for this contest. We want you to advance to regional and to state. And then to do that, you've got to really wrap your head around feature leads and be able to produce some really creative feature writing. So let's get going. So feature leads, here's a couple of the characteristics of them. And for me, a feature lead, the first bullet's really visual. And I always put my hands up like this if I'm presenting, so you get to see them too. What I want a feature lead to do and what you want your feature lead to do is to grab the reader and pull him or her into the story. They're so taken in by your lead that they're going to keep reading. That's what we want our leads to do. Our leads have to be very specific to our story. So that means we're not going to use the word million. We're not going to have in all of society. All of that really general stuff, that's not what we want. We want our lead to only work for our feature story. We want our lead to include details and descriptions, and we do that by using strong verbs and specific nouns. The show, don't tell. That's what we want our feature stories to do. We want to show the reader rather than tell the reader. So show me how somebody is smart. Okay, are they taking all AP classes, making straight A's? Did they get perfect on the SAT? Show me how they're smart, or show me how they're sexy. Okay, so we're probably not going to have a UL prompt about somebody being sexy, although that'd be kind of fun. Thor could be in our prompt. Oh my gosh, I had such a crush on Thor. Any hoot. So let me get back on target here. So we want to show in our leads. You can use dialogue within your lead, but remember, we don't want just a quote. We don't want just a single quote as our lead. We've got to have narrative wrapped around our quote. And really what we want our feature leads to do is we want our feature leads to make the reader feel. They should feel something. If it's a lighthearted story about a teacher who's a clown on the weekends, then let's have a fun, silly lead. Or if it's a lead about a young mother who's got breast cancer, then it needs to have a more serious tone in their story. It's going to be a more serious lead, and we're going to make the readers feel probably some empathy, maybe some pain. But whatever it is, when somebody gets done reading your lead, they should feel something. Boredom is not the feeling we want them to feel. So that's kind of what we want in our lead. So let's talk about how do you actually find that feature lead? That's a question I get quite often from students, and especially students who are new to writing. So this is the best advice that I give you. What I would tell you is that when you go into this contest or when you're practicing, no matter where you're doing this, you read the prompt front to back. Now, for our purposes, it's going to be on the screen front to front. But when you get in the contest, it's flipped front to back. So anyways, I digress, as often I do, because I'm all alone and sometimes I get weird. Let me get back on track here. So read the prompt front to back, and then after you get done reading it, put it down. Think about something completely different than the prompt. Think about what you want for dinner. Think about what your favorite dessert is. Oh my gosh, I love peach cobbler. Let's not even get me started on that. Think about a boy you like or a girl you like, but clear your mind just for like 3 or 4 minutes. You have a whole hour for this contest. So you have 15 minutes longer than you do in editorial writing and in news writing. So you have some extra time. So clear your head and then come back to the prompt and think about what sticks with you the most. When you come back, when you look at that prompt, what jumps out at you most? Is it a quote that hangs with you? Is it a description? Is it a detail? Whatever it is, that's what we want to try to wrap our lead around those things. So let's look at a prompt. A few minutes ago, I was making this video and realized I had put the wrong prompt in the video. So we had to start all over. So this is take 2. Often there's more than one take when it's just Jeannie. Um, lots of redos now in the pandemic. So this is our prompt. Now I've posted the prompt and you may have already downloaded it and read it, or at this point in the video, you may need to pause us. So pause, read it front to back, okay? Well, or front to front, whatever. Just read the screen. Okay, pause. Okay, I'm not really pausing. Welcome back. Woo, we missed you. I really did. I really missed you. So this is the prompt that you were given. So we have to think about what resonated with you when you read this, and then you thought about some random weird things, and then you came back to this prompt. What stuck out to you? Well, for me, what stuck out to me are the things in red. Now, this thing with the arrow is the thing that stuck out to me most in this prompt. Ooh, I need to move my face so we can see everything. So, my bow and arrow will make Clara better. When I read that quote, that's when I knew I gotta get that in my lead, because that tugs at my heart, and it's sweet and it's cute and it shows the little girl's age. There's just so much, I think, about that quote that's powerful, that I want to make sure I get that quote in my lead. Now, the other things that really stuck out to me is that her 5-year-old sister Ellie is a perfect match. I liked that one sister's giving her bone marrow and one sister is giving her hair, because she's not the perfect match. So I also like this phrase that Clara used to describe her sisters: 2 little adoring angels watching my every move. So those are the 4 things that really stuck out to me. But the number one thing is, when I first went back to this prompt, and often that's what I do, as I come back to him later, and then I think about how we're going to do the lead. Usually my intern will write the leads, but this is one that I actually wrote. So that quote is what came back to me the strongest. So I'm going to figure out how I can wrap my lead around that quote. Now remember, we don't want a story that just says my bow and arrow will make Clara better, because that's not going to make any sense, right? We've got to have narrative around that to explain that quote to the reader. So this is what my lead looked like. 16-year-old Clara Brown has her own guardian angels, her twin 5-year-old sisters. One angel is giving Clara, who suffers from aplastic anemia, her bow and arrow. The other angel is giving her hair. My bow and arrow will make Clara better, Ellie said. And that's all these angels want: a healthy big sister. So within this, it's a 4-paragraph lead, but it's really a pretty brief lead. I want you to look, there's a whole lot of details. We have 16-year-old Clara Brown, twin 5-year-old sisters. We know what her disease is. We know that one is giving bow and arrow. We know that one is giving hair. And we know that this is going to make their sister healthy. That's a whole lot in one lead. But because I went through and I highlighted what I wanted, all of these things, we have pieces of all of these elements in my lead. I've got the angels, I've got one donating their hair, one donating the bow and arrow, the twins. We have the detail about Claire being 16 years old. All of that is really important. And then what I want you to look at is this last sentence of my lead: a healthy big sister. Is that a complete sentence? Now, if you were in the room with me, which I really wish you were, except this room is pretty messy where I am, and it's kind of small, so that would be a little awkward. But anyways, if you were here, you would shake your head and say, no, that's not a complete sentence. It's not. It's a fragment. But it works, right? It works. It adds some punch and some power to the lead. So that's the lead that I crafted, because that's what stuck with me. Now, your lead may not have any of these elements, because something else may have stuck out to you. Maybe you wanted to take it from the angle of the mom when she talks about how brave her girls are. You could talk about the chemo that she's got to go through. You could have taken it from many different aspects, but that's the way I chose, was the bow and arrow. But you can choose anything that sticks with you. The mom saying, I would give anything to switch places. I think that's a powerful quote. All of those things are really, really powerful that you could write your lead around. I also like the quote from Clara Brown at the bottom. It says, I'm scared, but it has to be done. that's a really powerful lead to wrap your lead around. So there are many options here, but this is the lead that I went with. And so after we craft that really powerful lead, we've got to have a solid net graph that follows. In the net graph, remember, it's just really the 5 W's and the H of the story. It's like the thesis sentence of the story. Tells the reader what the rest of the story is going to be about. We kind of get a good idea here, but we really need to know the details. And often for our UIL feature writing prompts, often our net graph has a time element in it. Now, sometimes you can't get the time element in the net graph, but you want to make sure that time element is in the story. So the net graph I wrote for this story, remember, we want to link our lead to our net graph, or our net graph back to our lead. So the net graph that I wrote, if I can get my arrow back here, is the bow and arrow, or bone marrow, as the doctors call it, is Clara's one shot at regaining her health. This fall, Clara, a junior, was diagnosed with a severe form of anemia. The only possible cure for the disease is a bone marrow transplant, which she will receive on April 26th after enduring 4 weeks of chemotherapy to kill off her own bone marrow. So again, the net graph has a lot of information in it, but the most important thing that that net graph does is it takes something from the lead and it pulls it into the net graph so that my story flows. I pulled that bow and arrow from the lead and I pulled it into the net graph because I have to explain it to the readers, right? They don't know what bow and arrow is. I've got to explain it, but that's going to tie everything together. And that's really what we want to do with our net graph. We want to have our lead flowing into our net graph. And then from our net graph, we're going to go right into our direct quote. And then we're going to do our transition quote for the rest of the story. But here's the thing, guys. Even if you write fantastic transitions and quotes, if you can't master the feature lead, you'll struggle in this contest. So you've got to really practice. So it's your turn. What I tell you to do is go pick a UIL feature writing prompt, anyone you want, read it, wait, and don't wait a long time, not an hour. I'm talking just a minute. Think about something else. Think about, oh my goodness, what's the first thing I'm going to do when we're no longer in a pandemic? I'm going to hug somebody. That's what I'm going to do. I miss hugging people. My poor kids. I have to hug them a lot because nobody else is hugging me right now. So anyways, let me get off that hugging. And then after you've waited your few minutes, then what comes back to you most? And write your lead around that. Craft your lead around whatever's sticking with you, and then follow it with a solid net graph. Now, as always, if you have questions, if you have comments, please feel free to email me. My email is JACTON. One day I'll actually put this in a PowerPoint so I don't have to just say it out loud, but I always forget. JACTON@uiltexas.org. If you write a lead and you want some feedback, send it to me. I got some time. I'll send you some feedback. Just make sure you send the prompt or tell me what prompt you use so that I know what I'm commenting on. But good luck, guys. Do your best. Be creative. Use your voice and really dig into those feature writing leads. Have a fantastic afternoon. Bye, everybody.